employee. With this, I'm going to turn this over to Attorney Seegers.
Can I have a question for you? Sure. Before we get started. Before we even get started, have you been through the agreements procedures with this contract?
Yes.
I mean, and we're in compliance with the contract. And what step of the agreement are we at?
We're in the final phase of procedure, sir.
No, I'm sorry, there's no questions.
So you're on the fifth step of the agreements? You indicated
I don't have the procedure.
you don't have the contract with you?
Not perfect right now, sir. That's me, I'm
You have a hearing and you don't have the contract with you?
What would I need?
To answer that question I just asked you.
I'm not here to answer a question. I'm here to present evidence to the board as to the termination of an employee.
I'm asking you a question as to have you followed the steps of the contract?
Question was answered.
This is between me and him.
Question was answered. Please proceed.
Council, you have before you this morning a packet of information which has been shared with Ms. Zarate and her union representative, Mr. Lansdale. And really, it should come as no surprise to Ms. Zarate or her union representative in terms of the contents of the package that you all were presented with this morning. It is essentially a summary or actually the discipline that has been propounded upon Ms. Zarate since at least June of this year. And it is astounding how much information has been levied against her in a rather short time frame. We start with the very first grievance that she was the very first discipline that she was assessed with, which was on June 19th of 2014. And in fact, the record should reflect that there were in fact two types of discipline presented to Ms. Zarate on both of those days. This particular incident prompted a meeting that was called at the request of the president with Ms. Zarate and her union representative. That meeting took place on June 26th. I'm going to present you all with another document, which is not in the packet that you have right now, which is a June 26th email to Mr. Lansdale, her union representative, about what in fact were the concerns we were going to address later on that day on June 26th. We in fact met on June 26th, and council, I was personally present for the meeting in the president's office. The president asked, quite candidly, was there anything that could be done to address what was clearly insubordinate conduct, as you can see from the June 19th and the two June 19th incidents, anything we could do to try to right the ship. And I personally experienced something I had never experienced before, as it relates to an employee speaking or just interacting with her direct superior. She refused to make any eye contact with the president or me. She refused to answer any questions. And she was belligerent, to say the least. That meeting, frankly, caused some concern in both me and the president. And her union representative, Mr. Lansdale, seems to be a pleasant fellow. I reached out to him and asked, was there something we were missing? Is there something we can do to try to help this young lady? Because whatever issues she was having was hampering the effective running of the village. Mr. Lansdale appeared to agree with me. He indicated that he would like to. The co-reporter cannot hear two people talking at the same time. I would ask that everybody please hold their comments until after this proceeding. Afterwards, Mr. Lansdale and I spoke, and he indicated he would see, quite earnestly, he would see what he could do to see what he can get his client to do to try to make things run more smoothly. Thereafter, I received this email from Mr. Lansdale. Which is a July 9th, 2014 email from Mr. Lansdale. And apparently he was at a loss as to what could be done. The conduct escalated, and nothing seemed to be able to meet the village's needs. There was yet another incident in August of 2014, August 12th, where Ms. Zarate was actually videotaping someone, one of the residents of the village. And in addition to videotaping a resident of the village, she also videotaped someone who was on premises in order to be able to perform an audit on the water system. And that person was actually doing things on Ms. Zarate's computer. And the audit process in itself is supposed to be a very sacrosanct process. And she was videotaping potentially the keystrokes of the auditor who was auditing the water system on her computer. That prompted yet another discipline, which is attached as the August 12th discipline. And the second to last discipline that has been asserted onto Ms. Zarate as of late is on September 24th, 2014. And that is for essentially excessive absenteeism. You will note in the documentation that's attached what her attendance has been at least since April of 2014. And because of her failure to come to work, her failure to present doctor's notes in advance of taking off work, the president thought it was necessary for her to discipline her. Lastly, on September 29th of this year, Ms. Zarate, well, it was discovered on or about that date that Ms. Zarate had, in fact, told a set of residents, that I believe it's a mobile home park, that they were not going to be charged for a certain part of their water bill. And the president came into knowledge of that by way of a conversation she had with the president or the representative of the motorhome association. And he confirmed that he had in fact been told by Angela Zarate not to bill the residents for this particular water bill. And I think the total amount of that particular decision that she made unilaterally, without any knowledge of the president or anybody else, for that matter, within the authority, is to the tune of approximately $44,000. Now, you all can. This is your decision, but it has been recommended by the Employee Relations Committee to terminate Ms. Zarate. Today is the date and time set for that hearing on that matter. The evidence clearly speaks for itself. And in terms of process, I've said what I had to say. I'll reserve a few minutes to say something. I was told I have a half hour, but I'll reserve the balance of what I have of a half hour to speak to whatever Ms. Zarate has to say in response. But in short, for the effective and efficient running of this village, it is recommended that Ms. Zarate be terminated. She's like a bull in a china shop. And there's not much left to be said about her actions once you take a review of her discipline history that I presented you with. Thank you.